August 29, 2005, Hancock County, Mississippi found itself in the path of Hurricane Katrina. In 2007, some volunteers went down to see how they were doing. And these are the stories of the people they met.
Paul Gunther, and I'm currently County Commissioner in District 2 here in Queen Anne's County.
I'm Eric Wargotz, President of the Queen Anne County Board of Commissioners.
My name is Michael Clark, and I am the Director for the Foundation for Community Partnerships Incorporated.
Linda Kohler, I'm the CFO for the Foundation for Community Partnership.
Well, my name is Pastor Dan Southern. I am the pastor of the Centerville Community Church of God.
Well, if you want to know the whole story, I actually woke up in the middle of the night one night and had been thinking about ways that that we could do something for the people, the Katrina victims.
I came to him and said, you know, Katrina was a terrible disaster for so many people. We were very fortunate up here that we weren't affected similar to the way they were, and that what can we do?
Well, I just finished watching some news reel on what was going on down there, and I immediately called Mike Clark. And Mike Clark, of course, with the Community Foundation for Local Management Board and the Foundation for Children. I asked him, I said, Mike, I said, what is the community doing? What are we doing?
The Hurricane Katrina happened, and we set up an emergency relief fund. We had found out, and I'd heard that a lot of times when you set up a fund, lots of different people set up funds, and they'll donate to a big national organization or something like that. And then a lot of the funds get used for administrative costs. We wanted to set up a fund where we could target it to the way that the citizens of Queen Anne's County or whoever donated to the fund could use it too.
He said, well, we're getting ready to go into a meeting right now to discuss it. And so I said to him, I said, well, I want you to know that we're willing to open up our church in order for people to have a drop-off place to get supplies down to Mississippi.
We contacted the Red Cross, and we were just going to make a big donation to them. But then at that same time, you know, we heard all the downsides about, you know, the administrative fees that were coming out of the money. Red Cross was sending clothes, and they were actually, you know, the clothes weren't getting to the people that needed to have them, and they were piling up in storehouses. And it seemed to me that the basic thing that they needed was a little bit of support and some money. So I brought it up that night at a Lions Club meeting in Centerville, and ran it by them and said, hey fellas, isn't this something we can get into? And of course, some of my counterparts there, Jim Pippin and Dan Tabler and Bill Gossard and Brent Carroll and a lot of others said, hey, you know, let's do this. Let's try to get something started. And so at that particular meeting, we set a goal of trying to get everybody in the county, every citizen, every man, woman, and child, to come up with $3, which would have been a grand total of $120,000. Realizing that some people wouldn't be able to put up $3, but other people may put up 100 or 50 or whatever, and it would all average out.
He came up with the idea to raise funds locally to help either the Mississippi area or New Orleans. And then he did some research and he found there was a county in Mississippi, Hancock County, that was exactly the same size and the same population as Queen Anne's.
I guess at like the second or third meeting, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal about this little community of Waveland that had been particularly hit. And we looked into the demographics of that particular county and saw that they were very similar to what Queen Anne's County was. Very low-lying county, some agriculture, development, you know, and fairly rural. And said, you know, let's take a look at Hancock County, Mississippi, and let's make them a sister county. We came to the Paul Comfort and asked him if we could kind of designate that. He got that done, and then started making contacts with county people down here, the school system, the Chamber of Commerce, and things like that. And it's just it all progressed from there. Churches, the same ways. Pastor Dan Southern certainly helped make a lot of the church contacts for us. Why not have the firefighters get together and see what they could do for firefighters in the South? Because who knows better what a firefighter would need than one here, whether it's an axe or whether it's a rake or turnout gear or whatever that, that I may not have any notion of what they would need. And so that's what we started doing. Every penny that was raised for this project from Queen Anne's County went to Hancock County, Mississippi. There was not one penny that went to anything else besides those citizens down there, and that's where Mike Clark came in and really helped us with that.
We can ensure that for this particular fund, no administrative costs were kept by the foundation. So 100% of all the funds that went into this fund went in some way or another to help people in the hurricane-ravaged areas.
And what was your role in all this?
Really to direct the funds, to be there to make sure that all of the money that was donated first got into the bank so that none of it was diverted anywhere, and then to oversee that the funds were then used in the best possible way.
And not only does that just make it so that all the just wealthy or well-to-do individuals can put forth, but anybody in the community can most people in the community can afford to put $3 in and be a part of the effort to help rebuild the area.
And then we hope to build partnerships with local businesses and the service organizations so that they could follow up for the long time. Our library has donated books with their library, so relationships like that.
Our whole downstairs of our church became a center to receive things, and as a result of that, it was put out on QAC TV that this was a drop-off center. So people from all over the county began to come. Volunteers began to work the phones. It was many hours, several weeks of work, and that's how we got involved.
And so we got that started and started having committee meetings, and we were meeting every week up at the extension office. When I was up there with the University of Maryland, we'd get a group of people together, and the idea just kind of grew from there.
The options. Initially, the Queen Anne's County CARES funds were sent down to the Hancock County Board of Supervisors, which would be similar to our county commissioners, and they promised to give the money out to the people who needed it the most. And at the foundation level, we followed up and we watched them, and grant applications were received and reviewed, and they told us they were going to grant out the money. And then at the last minute, I got a call from one of their staff members who kind of was a whistleblower, and she said, they've decided just to give out Christmas bonuses with your money. And she knew that we had people here in our community who'd really given the smallest, like $3, it was all they could give, but they so much wanted to help someone. And so our board, the foundation board, immediately jumped in and said, no, you can't do that with this money. That's not how it will be. And so they returned all of the funds, and we went then and did a very quick review of what would be the best thing for Hancock County.
When I found out that the Queen Anne's County had adopted Hancock County, I immediately began to go through my local church to find out what our denomination was doing in that area. Most of the work from our denomination was not focused in Hancock County. It was focused over in Biloxi and places like that, New Orleans and so on. And so they gave me a referral, and that referral was to the Morrell Foundation. And so I connected with the Morrell Foundation and found out that they were in the process of putting together the I Care Village on Buccaneer State Park right in Waveland. And so with my correspondence with them and talking back and forth with them, I was able to organize our first trip to go down with a place for our people to stay.
Close to $100,000 were raised through the generosity of the community, and I was able to secure about 12 complete computer systems PCs and screen monitors and everything but software, keyboards, the whole 9 yards. From the hospital I work at, called Doctors Community Hospital in Lanham, they graciously donated that equipment because, as you can imagine, the flooding was terrible. Down in Hancock County School, all school electronics were ruined, were lost, and some of these computers are still being used today. In addition to the money, there was tremendous food and clothing drives. People were very generous in Queen Anne's County throughout the community here, and there were tractor trailers and truckloads of materials brought down there, all in addition to the money that was raised.
We probably ended up with a little more than $3 a person, and thanks to a foundation from New York that read about what we were doing, and there was we got some news coverage about it, and there was a foundation from New York City who wanted to remain anonymous that sent us a check for $20,000. But we got checks from all up and down the East Coast, all across Maryland, and actually got a check from Hancock County. And it was just developing these sister type relationships. The Hancock County banks system had set up a foundation for us to deposit the money, and originally there were small grants that if people needed, up to like $100 or $150, they could come get it through those facilities. And then Mike Clark stepped in and helped us on this end, developing the Queen Anne's Cares Foundation, and everything was a 503c, and so that our people were able to get their tax deductions from it, which certainly helped out a lot. And that's a great organization. They deserve a lot of credit, because without that designation, we probably wouldn't have gotten all the money that we did get. And one of the neat things is we set up office equipment, paper, pens, pencils, to help reestablish the Hancock County Chamber of Commerce. And you may not think that was a small thing, but a lot of those businesses in the county needed a place to operate. And so that chamber office was open 24 hours a day. And if you had a business and you needed computer time, you could come in and use their computer for an hour or half an hour a day and do the things that you needed to do to operate your business. So, we played a bigger part than most people know, and the chamber of this county stepped up and really helped out to help get some of those businesses reestablished. And by reestablishing the businesses, you reestablish jobs, and you reestablish normalcy, if you will. But by the time you look at goods and services, I'm sure that we far surpassed the 120,000 of our original goal.
I have not had the opportunity to visit Hancock County. There have been several trips over the past year, I think one just a month or two ago, to see how they were doing.
I plan to go there someday. I know a lot of people down there because I talked to a lot of them on the phone, and I mean, I guess at the time I was president of the Chamber of Commerce here in Queen Anne's County.
A group mostly headed by Pastor Dan Southern of Centerville Community Church, and he would be another one of the big heroes I forgot to mention. He had put together a couple of truckloads of supplies, things that were needed right away, food and canned goods and just all kinds of things, diapers for babies, and he went down there and spent several weeks.
We were down the first week in February, so it was several weeks afterwards, and we waited intentionally because we wanted to give the opportunities for the first responders and the people that wanted to, I figured that there would be a lot of people that would respond immediately, but then maybe after several months there might be somewhat of a slowing of the effort. And so that was whenever we decided that we would plan our trip so that we would kind of like be the second wave into the relief operations. And so we just opened it up to where that anybody that wanted to come, that had any kind of skills, that they could come down and go with us and help with the relief operations. By the time that we were driving in the middle of town of Waveland, the place looked like just a massive landfill. There was just debris and houses and stuff. You'd see teddy bears hanging in the trees. You'd see lumber stuck 15 feet up above, lodged in tree limbs and things of that sort. It was really devastating. It was just, the concept was, you know, I just really can't believe this. This is more than my mind can take in. First time we were there for about a week and a half, and we were able to connect with the Morale Foundation and actually help to put that first village together. The Eye Care Village was basically a tent village, and we were actually building dormitories, rooms where people could stay, just with simply putting up some 2x4 walls and some drywall. We worked a lot with trying to build the loading dock, the dormitories, building beds for people to sleep in. Cots were donated. We were putting cots together. So we spent the first part of our week helping build this Eye Care Village so that people that came behind us that wanted to do relief operations could have a place to stay and a base to operate from. And so the second part of our stay there, we got into the community and actually met some of the residents and local people there and heard their stories and worked in their houses and worked in their homes.
We had collected Christmas gifts. We wanted to target in on the children, and you know, through phone contacts we had found out that you know, even if people had money to buy things with, there was nowhere they could go. They didn't have gasoline for their cars were flooded. They had a few bicycles. The local Kmart had blown away, and Walmart had salvaged what they could and opened up under a tent on a parking lot. But we knew we could get a good effort together to send presents, Christmas presents, down to the children, and that's what we did. The Chamber of Commerce once again stood up and gave us $5,000 towards that effort. Kmart here in Queen Anne's County let us go in on a shopping spree in there with money, and everything was sold at cost to us. The Y River Upper School came forward and wrapped the gifts, and we had local farmers, the Schmidt family, the Story family, each took trailer loads of presents down to those kids. We had gifts come in from all over the county, and we sent initially 2 trailer loads of Christmas gifts right before Christmas, that first year after Katrina, and that was really the start of it all.
Did you talk to anybody about the reaction of the children and the families and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, they for the group that went down, and Pastor Dan went with them, and a lot of other, there was a whole caravan of about 20 people from the county that went down with these presents, and you know, some of the pictures that they brought back were just unbelievable, and just the looks that they were getting from the children, of, you know, the thank yous that they got for the presents, the fact that you know, a lot of the people told me that they were life-changing experiences. To hand a small child the only Christmas present that he was going to get, and maybe a piece of candy, and for that child to look back and wish them and their family a Merry Christmas. Matter of fact, one of the guys told me that he didn't stop crying from the time he left there until he hit the North Carolina border. So you know, it's those types of experiences, and you know, and that's just it says a lot about the people of the county, and what we can do if we can put our efforts to that. And you know, everybody forget about you know, who gets the credit for anything, and just, you know, let's get the job done. And that's certainly what took place here.
And with our previous connections with the mayor and some of the principals of the schools and some of the people on the school board down there, we were able to go in and take these Christmas presents and literally pass them out to the children, hand them out to the children. And that was probably one of the most fulfilling trips, because you would see the joy on those in those children's faces and in their eyes, that they would not have had a Christmas if it had not been for the wonderful people of Queen Anne's County opening up their heart and opening up their wallets and giving money and buying presents And we just simply were the avenue the second time to be able to go down and help organize that trip down there to give those presents out. And that trip, we were there probably for about a week doing that type of work. The third trip was a little bit more organized. Since we already knew people down there, we already had contacts down there, we'd already worked several times with the Morale Foundation. We were able to start work day one, from the very first day that we got there. So we hit the ground running. We already knew of jobs that needed to be done, contacts, we made calls ahead of time, so that on the very first day there, we put our crews to work. We did drywall, we put roofs on, we cut limbs, we removed trees, built sheds, we painted, we did anything and everything that needed to be done.
When volunteers were going down, and of course they were streaming in from everywhere, and there was no place for them to stay. And so, establishing that sort of thing was very important. And that's where the school board really stepped in. And Dr. Sadusky, we sent used kitchen equipment from out here that was stored, that was kind of outdated, but was still workable. And we loaded up a trailer load of that stuff.
I did a lot of networking with county leaders and the school board, different ones, and through that networking I was able to be connected with the volunteer center there. And at that time it was a young man by the name of Joe Williams. He was in charge of it. And so with many conversations with him and talking with him, I was able to make connections with the volunteer center.
They had a lot of donated building materials and supplies. A lot of people wanted to work on their houses, but they couldn't afford the labor. And the FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management, and MEMA, the Mississippi Emergency Management, none of those funds could go for labor costs. So what they needed more than anything was this shelter. And so that's where we put the money.
So you volunteered to go as one of the board members?
Yeah, volunteered. I mean, I didn't really even expect to get picked to go. I said, well, if you can't find anybody else, and there were several people, especially some of the individual donators who were asked if they would like to go, and I guess they couldn't fit it into their schedules. But I only check my email when I feel like it, so I just happened to check it and found out that I was able to go.
I took away part of Hancock County, the people of Hancock County. I took away the gratitude that they had for what to me seemed like such a small amount of effort on our part. Yes, it was a great endeavor, but really it was only a small amount of work that really needed to be done. And I took with me the stories and the lives that were touched, the compassion that I saw in the workers that went down, the lives that were touched, lifelong relationships probably that will always be there. I took that away with me. I took away a sense of gratitude for the human spirit, for its ability to endure, its ability to believe in better things even when difficulty had surrounded them. And that's what I took away. I saw this great working together of community, of people of faith, people of different religious backgrounds, people it didn't matter if whether or not you were a Lutheran or you were a Baptist or you were a Methodist. We were together in the common good for the survival of those people. Working side by side by even of people of other faiths, people of the Mormons and even there were some Hindu people that were working and so on. This was just a community of people that had a heart to help, and that will stay with me for all of my life.
And so where does our relationship go from here? I guess some people could say, is there any need for it? Well, I think through this catastrophe and through our assistance, we've formed some real friends down there, and we're still concerned with how things are going, and they're very appreciative. And I think the relationship will continue. I think there may be other things we all can work on in the future. Perhaps if another community, regardless of where it is in the U.S., is struck by such a natural disaster, maybe now instead of just one county jumping in, Queen Anne's County and Hancock will jump in together as partners to assist that other community and sort of form a network of supportive communities when others are hit with a natural disaster. So I just want to thank Queen Anne County Cares for all they did and for the opportunity I had to be part of it.
I would encourage the continual partnership with Hancock County from Queen Anne's County. I think that Queen Anne's County has a wonderful heart. I think that this is one of the greatest communities for anybody to live in, and I believe that that we still have a heart for Hancock County. And there is still yet much work to be done down there. There is a lot of rebuilding to take place. There are still stories to be told. And so I would encourage anyone that has an interest of helping to contact the Community Foundation office or the local management board office, and they can direct you in whatever ways that you would want to help.
And so I'm looking now for a truck, somebody who could donate a truck possibly, or drive the truck down, and we'll send another trip, send another group down, probably late winter, early spring about it. Many of the people down there are living still in FEMA trailers, and actually FEMA is recalling the trailers, and they can't move into cottages unless they've started construction of their home. Many of them have never received a penny of insurance money, so they don't have the funds, although there are donated building materials. So I believe that maybe less than an eighth of the homes have even been started. So yeah, there's definitely a need, and we have a wonderful volunteer facility down there that people could stay in, and meals are provided. So I think that if we could send volunteers from our area, that would be the best thing that we could do. They need help more than money now, I think.
You plan on going at some point as well?
I do, and the next trip I want to go as well, and encourage everybody I know to go down with me, because they just need the help.
I think, it's kind of like it's, with the war now and other the things that are going on, it's it's kind of gotten shifted to the back burner. Hopefully, we can get a group of commissioners. We've been talking about this and maybe trying to get take a long weekend and go down there and actually meet with their commission board and kind of see if we can't do some more things to reestablish that. So I mean, there's it's not you just don't wave a magic wand and these disasters are taken care of. It literally takes years to rebuild and to get people back to whatever normalcy was or is, or but hopefully we've helped them on their way, and I guess our challenge was always going to be that we would challenge other counties to do the same, to adopt a county or to adopt a town or something, and funnel their resources into one thing rather than just kind of spread them out over a lot of different agencies. And I guess the feeling, and I know that you guys experienced this too, is the feeling that I gave blood, I threw some money in a bucket, and but there was more. There was just something more that I wanted to do, that's just the way it was, and that's what made it kind of made it go.
Katrina left me high and dry. When my levee broke, I looked to the sky. From whence come my help? From whence come my help? When the waters rise.
People wanted to work on their houses, but they couldn't afford the labor. And the FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management, and MEMA, the Mississippi Emergency Management, none of those funds could go for labor costs. So what they needed more than anything was this shelter, and so that's where we put the money.